We should be live. We're back. We got something special today. Predictive mock draft time. We're a day out from the draft, man. It's officially here. The mic should be working too. We were having issues this morning, but we should be good to go. Um, this is the build up. The build up's all for this. The build up's for this day where we get to predict mock draft. Now we've had some hits. We've had some hits recently. Okay, we ended up hitting on a few of the right predictions over the last few years, but I'm telling you what, man, I'm not feeling good about this year. I'm not optimistic. I got a feeling I might miss every pick. Like I think that's on the table. This is a hard year. It's a hard year to predict, man. Man, first off, you're in the back of the draft, so sitting at 28 just leaves everything on the table. Two, trades. There's been no trades. Trades are going to happen. We assume. I think the Lions want to get out if they can. I don't know if they'll be able to. So that's going to throw things off as well. It's going to be difficult. And there's so many guys bunched together, which is a problem. There's so many dudes that feel like they're in a similar category where it's like, if they're not going to go get aggressive and trade up, I don't know. I don't know what the separator is. And I think there's a couple guys they would trade up for. I just don't think realistically they're going to get that close. We've talked about this a little bit before we get into this final predictive mock. A couple guys that I think could potentially interest them in moving up because they could actually maybe get into a range that's possible is Jahdae Barron of Texas going to get the cornerback, really because he can play everywhere. They can put him at safety if they want to do. Just kind of feels like a Lions fit. And Jahad Campbell, because I think Campbell, with the injury that kind of popped up late, could lead him to a fall. The flexibility that he plays with, he's not like a highest linebacker, but I think he fits the Lions stylistically. The problem is I think you'd have to move over both of those guys. So it has to get to a spot where it's realistic. And that's the difficulty with this, because if that's not the case and they're not trading up and it's one of those guys where you're like, oh, that makes sense. Like those guys make sense. Then you get to a point where you get a lot of guys bunched together and you're like, what makes him better than this guy? Right. So then it's like, all right, we want to move out. Well, who's moving up? And most of the teams toward the back end of the first round, I think, would also be like, hey, we're cool with moving back. So it's like, well, are you taking less than the other teams? Like what? It's going to be difficult. So today we put it all together. We're predicting it. We're going to go through the players. Now, the key to this is not necessarily the spots. Okay. So while the spots are there, it's not necessarily the spots that matter. It's more about the players that we end up putting in this one. Do I feel a big trade up coming back around one? I think most likely they want to get out. Like, so if I was a betting man, I'd say they get out. It's just my problem is I think everybody towards the back end of the first round would be willing to get out. Maybe Kansas City gets aggressive because they can get their tackle. Maybe Philadelphia because of where their roster's at. Outside of those two teams doing it, I don't think many teams are cool with staying there. I think they're all cool with moving back. So that's even assuming there's interest. That's assuming that the Browns or the Giants would be interested. So I don't know. As y'all gonna see, we got the draft hat. You know what I mean? We got the draft hat. We're at the draft right now. That's where we're at. That's what we're trying to make this work. So if I'm a little bit quieter, that's why. But we will get it done. But yeah, dude, these are clean, by the way. Just a little side note. They went crazy on these little, I don't know if they're leaves or something. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, that being said, I think they're going to try to get out. And those are the couple players I think they move up for. My dark horse would be a Malachi Starks. Like, would they be willing to go a few spots to get a Malachi Starks? I think he'd fit. I just don't know how much capital they'd actually be willing to give up, because I think you're giving up picks to move up to know that you feel like you're getting a starter. Like you have to know that, and someone that's replacing a starter most likely at some spot. So the value's there. It's probably going to take a legitimate amount to go get that piece, and I don't think there's going to be a ton of options like that actually get to that spot, because I think those guys are going to be picked, and I don't think those guys are going to last. So all right, let's get right into it. We wasted enough time. Let's get into it. Let's go to this predictive mock. First player that we have, and there's going to be a lot of repeats here that we've talked about recently. I apologize. That's because I'm predicting. I'm just taking my swings. We'll see if I get anything right. Don't worry about the spot. Worry about the player, right? Because they could move and still land these guys. But this one I think would be not moving. First pick that we have is the Lions. I think just standing pat, not moving, taking their guy. And that is going to be right here. I know some people are kind of hit and miss on this one. I think it's going to be Donovan Jackson. My guess is if they can't move, they're going to have options, right? There's going to be a ton of pass rushing options. So there's going to be guys that kind of fall through. We talked about the guys that I'd move up for. I don't think Barron gets to 28. I'd be surprised if Campbell got to 28. I don't think either of those two do. So all of a sudden, I think you're just trying to find the best value. And it's going to be small margins that are probably going to separate these guys if you're sitting there at 28. So if you can't move back, people will question the value of interior offensive lineman in the first round, but you're 28. It's not 7. Right. So it doesn't matter to me. And also the impact of flexibility matters here. This is a smart player. He's technically sound. He's scheme versatile. All of those things check boxes for the Lions. He's reliable. And the fact that he played left tackle, it's not that I'm looking at him like, oh, dude, a couple of years, man, let him be the replacement for Decker. Like I don't see that, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt that you got a guy that you're like, well, we could just kick him to tackle, right? We could probably switch guard positions for him. And that's huge. You think about Taylor Decker and where he is out in his contract. To at least have that in your back pocket with a young Giovanni Manu that you're kind of still figuring out where he's at, I think that's a lot of value for the Lions. And I think prioritizing offensive line's never a bad decision, right? With how this team has done things over the years, like you prioritize that. They couldn't land it in free agency. Those guys just cost a lot. So I can understand, the guard argument to an extent. It's like, well, we could maybe get those cheaper, but we've seen guards, the price points went up. Right? Guards are getting paid now. And the Lions, where they're at financially, they just don't have the money to give the guys unless they're starters, unless they're those dudes. So I think this gives you a flexible piece. It's a very good piece. He's my number 2 guard, or number 2 interior offensive lineman, actually. Not even just guard. I have him above Gray Zabel. And he's only 0.01 point spots below Tyler Booker for me. And I think that there's a real chance the Lions would lean Donovan over Booker if both were on the board, just because stylistically he fits better, right? I think the versatility makes more sense. So I like both. If I'm guessing right now, they get stuck, they take Donovan Jackson, and they walk away and say, man, our offensive line's in a good spot. And that doesn't hurt, right? You've invested in Goff, so protect that man. All right, let's go to number 2. Next up, another guy we've talked a lot about. We're kind of just almost like going in circles here, but it is what it is, man. All right, number 2, we got. Oh, this is crazy. This actually worked out this way. I think Ohio State, and then you go to Michigan. I'm putting Josiah Stewart out of Michigan in here. Josiah Stewart, to me, is one of the best pass rushers in this class. He ended up having I gave him the same grade as a pass rusher, as a critical factor, as I did Donovan Ezaraku. So to kind of give you an idea of how good of a rusher I think he is, that's where I'm at with him. Size-wise will be a concern. He's not your typical 6'4", super long. Here's something I thought about. We've talked about that. I think the Lions will have the flexibility to do this. But if we really dig way deeper than we should, because this is probably doing too much, and you think about what Brad Holmes told us, right? He told us, hey, it's easy. It's easy to go get a guy that's 6'5", 260, right? I don't remember what measurements he used, but he's like, if a coach tells me he wants a guy that's this size, that's easy. I'm trying to do my impression. That's easy. We can get that every round. We can get an edge every round. But if he's not the player, then you're going to be essentially looking for that replacement anyway. And is there a world in which he's kind of giving you a preview to look, man, this dude can play. We understand there's some size concerns. Length is not outstanding either. He will play the run. He plays with one of the hottest motors, I think, of any edge rusher. He's just outside my top 10 personally. I think I have him 12 or 13. But I think he's truly one of the better pass rushers in this class. So for me, and here's the thing, I will say this too. Today, this is our first day of the draft stuff. It was weird, bro. No, I'm not sick. I'm just keeping it down. We got other shows going on, so I want to make sure I'm not overlapping people. That's it. We're good. I appreciate y'all being here. I will say this. So today we got to see a lot of these draft prospects, and bro, seeing some of these dudes in person does give you that vibe, of, yo, would I draft this guy? No disrespect, but this guy is not the biggest dude in the world. All right, this dude is Matthew Golden was a perfect example. I didn't realize he was only 5'11", so I guess that's on me. But seeing him in person was like, yo, would I use a first round pick on Matthew Golden? I legitimately had that thought, and it was just because of his build. Now, I don't think that would sway me. If you like the player, you like the player. But ultimately, I think that matters, right? How do they look? You feel him. You see him. That said, though, to me, Josiah Stewart, height-wise, yeah, he's not the biggest, but that dude's strong as heck, and you can tell. I saw him in person, too. I got to speak to him as well. Just like I did today. Like Tyler Booker's a big dude. He looks like a guard. All right, he looks like a guard. Josiah Stewart, to me, in terms of like strength physically, that dude is pretty bulked up, man. Like I think he's going to make it work, and I love the way that he plays. So again, maybe reading between the lines too much there, but it ties things together pretty well. Josiah, you think about the guys they meet with, you think about the style. That's why Josiah ultimately gets in here. So that's number 2. Donovan Jackson, Josiah Stewart. Let's keep it moving. All right, this is predictive, not who I would take. It's just predictive, though I do like these first 2 players, so I'm pretty excited about both these guys. Pretty darn excited about both these guys. All right, let's keep it moving, though. Next up, number 3. And if you do want to know where I have these rankings, both interior offensive line and edge rushers, I've done ranking videos on both. So I do have full breakdown. Actually, I can double check by the time we get out of here where I had Josiah right. I think he was 12. 60, you might be on that number, maybe further down. Like I said, Donovan was number 2 for me. All right, number 3. I just love this player. And I struggle a little bit with this one because I don't think his game is like, I'm so explosive and I get off the line. And I think that's what the Lions typically value: length, explosion from interior defensive linemen, right? Guys that are kind of have that muscular build a little bit more. Though, here's what I also go back to. Aleem McNeil didn't have that when we drafted him as much. Right, Aleem McNeil was a nose tackle. He was a true nose when we drafted Aleem. Y'all remember, it was the reason they drafted him. I mean, they said when they drafted him, he's the last true nose on the board. Turns out, dude's playing 3 technique for us. Dude's playing outside the guard. Dude's our best pass rushing interior presence because he had the skill set for it. He developed into that, and then he dropped weight. Y'all remember that? And we're like, hey, you can drop weight, but don't let that sacrifice your ability to stop the run. Like, we get it. You can drop weight. We're cool with that, but don't let that make it so you can't stop the run. And that was the message to him. And he's been able to do that. They value guys that can stop the run. Jamaree Caldwell will stop the run. And that's why he's in here first. Because, again, I still want to get better against the run. These first really 3 picks, I think, help us on both sides. Run the ball, stop the run, that kind of thing. Caldwell's going to stop the run. And it's the ability to have the upside to be able to get after the quarterback that I point to here. You could potentially try to work on his body type. You could make his physique more appealing, right, for an NFL team. Maybe you get there at some point. But I just love the way he plays, right? Talk about scheme versatility on offense. Think about on defense, right? Guys that can handle everything you throw at them, right? They're capable. Hey, I can deal with a wide zone. I can move laterally. I can get down square the line of scrimmage. I can handle double teams. I can go get an edge one-on-one, right? I can sit in a nose tackle. Heck, watch this. I can play nose. I can play over the center. I can kick out outside that guard. Like, I have all that flexibility to play everywhere on the interior. So, for me, I wish he was a little bit more of like his game's explosion. It's not as much, but he's one of my favorite players. Caldwell, we did our top 15 by position today. Definitely go check it out. I know the audio was kind of jacked, but we did it. And he was, I want to say 7 or 8 for my interior defensive lineman. I'm really high on him. So, this just kind of works out well. I really like the guy. I think there's a lot of things that could carry over here. But I think there's, in a little side note before we get on to the next, there's a lot of interior defensive linemen that stylistically, when you get to day 2 and 3, that can fit the Lions. Like, they just kind of have that type. Their explosion, their body type. There's a lot of guys when you get to day 2 and day 3 that fit the mold of like, oh, that would make sense. I could see the Lions going. I know I always go back to Tim Smith, but there's a lot of dudes I think that can kind of fall into that category. Maybe they have a length, right? Joshua Farmer, 35-inch arms, right? The build, 320. There's a lot of guys that can do that. So, all right, a lot of options there. A lot of options Lions want to dabble into that. Let's keep it moving. We're on to the 4th pick. Again, they could move the board for these picks, but we're on to the 4th pick. And the 4th pick now, staying on that side of the ball. Let me pop it on the screen here. We're going to go Jaylen Reed, safety out of Penn State. Another one I've been pretty consistent on. Not only thinking that this is a way better player than what everybody else seemingly thinks, but also thinking that this is a really good Lions fit. Penn State's put out DBs. This is what they do. They put out safeties. You know what I mean? Like, they do it. They put out safeties. So sometimes they're not always hits, but this is what they do. And I think that Jaylen Reed, you have the Kevin Winston Jr. injury. It kind of clouds like some people's perception on what this is going to look like. Jaylen Reed was just good when he was on the field last year. He's one of the more versatile safeties. He fits the Lions to me because stylistically you need versatility to make sense in our offense. So he has that. He's a hitter. Overall, I think his play style just feels like a Lion when I watch him. And I also think that his value is potentially going to be very high. A team could get him at a spot where I don't think he should have fallen to. You look at his build, 5'11" and a half, 211 pounds. I love that. You know what I mean? 211 pounds, 2-year starter. 19 bench press reps, the upper body strength, right? The length a little bit below average. He's playing the nickel. I mean, one game I had him watching last year, he was going against Illinois. They just put him in the slot. Like, all right, dude, just go work the slot. He's bigger in size, and I think sometimes even showcase. I think he holds that weight really well. Like if you watch him, he doesn't feel stocky or thick. Like Lathan Ransom feels thick when you watch him. Okay, hey, he does, man. This guy's bulked up. He moves, but he's a heavy looking safety, and he still moves well. He's got good body control, but I don't feel that as much with Reed, but the testing still showcases like, oh, he's got some bulk to him. And what really pulls it all together, he's physical as heck. It's one of the most physical safeties, I think, in this year's draft. Like one of the most physical safeties there with Eamon Warrior. This guy will hit guys. Eamon Warrior sometimes will waver a little bit, but he'll hit dudes, plays the game with very good play speed. He's got great 3-level ability. You can work him all over the field. For me, he can be a little sluggish, flipping his hips, which, single high, you'll have some questions about that, right? Slither, short area agility, some little issues there. But I think he's got very good ball skills too. Like he connects everything for me. He connects all the dots. And I think you could be getting him at a great value here if this was to be the case. And he was your, what are we on, fifth pick? Fourth pick. Yeah. We need a safety too. So like we just need one. All right. Not trying to draft need. I really like the guy. He can line up with need and want here. And that works perfectly. Yeah, dude, we're getting close to the draft, bro. We're getting close. I wanted to throw some names as we're kind of talking through this of other guys that I think definitely considered before we keep this thing moving. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but there's been a few guys. So I threw some for DT. Darius Alexander, I think, is an interesting one. I just don't think he's consistent at dealing with double teams. I had more issues against the run than anything there. And he's a guy that I think you just want to get one-on-one. So if you're creative with him, get him on a third down, line him all out wide, try to get one-on-ones with guards, try to get one-on-one creation. If you can create one-on-ones, you can go win. He's one of the best at doing that. It's just, can I get those one-on-ones? How do I have to schematically create opportunities for him to get one-on-ones? But he also finished the process incredibly well, so that helps. Offensive line-wise, like I said, I'm still a Tyler Booger fan. If you don't follow me on X, I dropped, the little – I guess I think I reposted it. The little interview I had with Tyler Booker, I was fired up, dude. Seeing that dude in person, I was like, oh, this is the guy. This is the guy. That's who I want protecting my quarterback. So he's a heck of a pass protector. He's going to be consistent right away as a pass protector. So Tyler Booker ends up someone that I think would be interesting. There's a lot of interior offensive linemen, but I don't think it's a strong group as a whole. I think the interior offensive line group's weak. And here's the thing I would keep in mind, too. Like, when you think about the balance of a draft, I'm not saying that Brad thinks like this, but there is a thought process that can be had of like, hey, if we take the guy here, what do we have to fall back on? So meaning, hey, if you don't take into your offensive line first round, right? And then you come back in the second round or even later and you're like, okay, we kind of still need one. Where are you finding it? There's a couple guys I like, I think Wyatt Millen could, but I think Wyatt Millen could fly off the board because of that flexibility. Plus, he's still going from left tackle to guard, and he's going to be a 6'6" guard. And you kind of get to a point where you're like, all right, the options are pretty slim. Like we're I'm then quickly into, hey, Miles Frazier out of LSU, and there's guys that are like, all right, well, this schematic versatility, so, but if you walk away with your guy in the first round, right, and that could be, I like Josh Simmons a lot. I think Josh Simmons is a dark horse pick for me. The Lions can't move, and they're just sitting on the board. Oh, I think Josh Simmons would be an amazing value pick. I think he could be the best tackle in this class. I think I'd have him ranked number 1 right now as just a player. It's just the injuries coming off of. But that dude's fantastic, and I think he can play on the inside. So, to me, if you walk away with that guy first, the opportunity to come back and say, and look, we talked to Daniel Jeremiah today at the draft, all the draft events. He was there, shot the Daniel Jeremiah, I got my picture with him. That was cool. I listened to all the stuff, so that was pretty amazing. I asked him about TJ Sanders. The answer that he gave was kind of what I was expecting, so I was a little disappointed because I knew he was going to say what he was going to say, and he said it anyway. I was like, come on, man, give me something good, bro. We're here as media credentials. I want to really know why he's dropping this guy. But yeah, no, I mean, if you walk away with a guard that you or a lineman that you really like first, you then can come back and get a guy that can get after it. it's going to be hard to do the reverse. I mean, typically now, if you want like, hey, you want everything, you want a edge that's big, it can stop the run, rush the passer, he's got all the measurables and the traits. You're probably gonna have to trade up. And that guy's probably not getting a 28, or there's an off the field concern probably attached to him. But if you go the opposite direction, you're gonna be able to get that round 2 and 3. Lineman's gonna be tricky. So you can even just look at it from a balance, like, hey, the balance might make more sense to go this path than the other path. All right. That said, that's our first 4. Let's keep it moving because we do have a couple more picks to fill out here. And these are hard because I don't know where guys are going to go, especially at this point. I have no idea. I don't even know them in the first round, so I have no clue. But guys that I think make sense for the Lions, number 5, wide receiver Pat Bryant. Wide receiver Pat Bryant out of Illinois just feels like a guy the Lions would like. He's a willing blocker. He's smart. He's efficient. That's the big thing here. I know his 40 time wasn't great. We're going to draft him, and people aren't going to be like, hey, that's your JMO replacement. You Lions draft a guy that runs into 4.3s. People are going to say that, regardless of how big dude is. But the 40 time could allow him to fall. And to me, that could end up being a really good value because of that. I don't care about his 40 time. We have effective 4.6 runners in the NFL. I don't care. The point is for me, it's more than that. It's not. I don't look at him and say, well, the ding is he's not that fast. Like, I don't feel that with him. Right? I don't feel like that's the ding in this game. The thing is that his hands have gotten a lot better. The release package is super efficient. Maybe I want more diversity there, but he gets off the line consistently, right? And he finds leverage, attacks it, gets off the line, gets upfield. And when you tie that with the pass catching, the willingness to block, the toughness that he plays with, the inside-outside flexibility that he brings to the table, I think that he feels like a guy the Lions would be willing to bet on. And look, they've dealt with guys. Look, their best receiver isn't their fastest receiver. They're not moving off JMO. I'm here to tell you now, he's not getting traded. Patriots fans, get out of the chat if you're here. You ain't getting him. You ain't getting him. He's here. He's a Lion. But Pat Bryant would be a really good balancing act for that, and could give him a little bit of time with Tim Patrick here. And everybody wants size. If everybody wants measurables, there you go. There's some dang measurables for you. 6'3", 200. You got it. There's your pick. All right, let's keep it moving. Pat Bryant's the line. A few more. Again, a lot of guys we've talked about, so I apologize for some of the overlap, but it's kind of where we're at, with some of the overlap. Let's go to. I don't actually remember which order I had these two, so bear with me. I might put these out of order here from what I actually had it mocked as. Doesn't really matter, right? They're both your 2 last picks. You got to figure it out somehow. Let's throw. Give me a second. I'm going to throw this one on. We'll pop the other one up. Let's go here. Fadil Diggs. I think I had Fadil Diggs. I still don't know how to say his name. That's going to be something I have to figure out because that's going to be a disaster if we take him. I don't know how to say dude's name. Fadil Diggs out of Syracuse is the pick we're going to make here. I think the field just makes too much sense. I think the field makes too much sense, man. And it's mainly because, we're connecting linebacker. People are looking for the fit. To me, linebacker. Okay, I said it. Okay, Fadil. I feel like it should be spelled different. That's like Joe Dahl. Shout out to Joe Dahl, by the way. That's a good little. Anyway, for me, a lot of people are plugging linebacker. I understand why, especially if you get a Josiah Stewart, right? You could be like, everyone wants more length, more size. Diggs does add that. The problem will be there's going to be some overlap. I didn't know you could do that. Fadil. I don't know. Diggs. All right. There's going to be some overlap with like, oh, you have Josiah and you have Diggs. Like, well, what are they going to both do? My concern's not going to last too long because of where I'm taking him. Number 1 in the draft, you're just trying to find guys that you believe in long term that could potentially develop into something for your team. The other element of this too is it's the toughness, it's the football intelligence. I think he's one of the smarter edge rushers that I've watched. I think from a football intelligence spot, I feel the same way about Torrey Horton as a receiver as I feel about him as an edge rusher. I think he's a very smart player. And I think that's the thing that when we get all this mess, right? Oh, how big is he? How fast is he? How long is he? At some point, bro, like, dude, you can't not know, like, have a feel for the game, right? That's a concern at some points when people watch Walter Nolan. It's like, what is he seeing? I don't even know where he's going. He's talented as heck, right? That's not the only issue, but sometimes that's an issue. I don't have that issue with Diggs. It's quite the opposite. I think his biggest strength is the feel that he actually plays with for the game. 6'4", 257, great length, right? Basically 33.5 inches. he did test well in terms of the ran a 4.57, which is crazy. I think he's best on the ball. I think you put him on the ball and you kind of let him work. He's got the inside rushing flexibility, which is right now I think his best trade as a rusher. I don't think he's consistent on the edge. I think he's below average if you make him work the edge, which is going to make it difficult. Like, oh yeah, you draft an edge rusher that's not great on the edge. Yeah, that's a problem. But where I'm taking him in the draft, the flexibility is going to be the key. I don't want. Here's the thing. Think about it like this. It's third and 7. All right, he and Josiah Stewart in this case are both on the field. I'm not putting Josiah Stewart over a guard. I'm not. I'm going to let him rush on the edge, which is his skill set, which is what James Houston would do. How often they put James Houston over a center? Never. It was like, yeah, we're not doing that. Instead, we're going to leave him on the outside, let him work on that tackle. In this case, Diggs is going to step inside. He's going to work on the interior. That's where he has a chance. He's a little bit too high cut. He's going to have a chance on the inside. And he's average in a lot of categories for me. It's enough for a day 3 swing. I think it's the football intelligence that will give him an opportunity. He doesn't do much as his own dropper. He kind of just settles in as like a spy and watches the quarterback. So you got to find a role for him. The Lions, maybe the creative team to make it work. So we'll see. Maybe they'd want to take a bigger swing and like, oh, this guy has a lot more upside as a rusher, something like that. But we're talking back end of the draft at this point. And that wraps it up with a player that I'm really not confident is going to get there. But the consensus, and shout out to my man Bass because he was like, yo, check out the consensus board. This thing will give you an idea of where everybody thinks a player will go basically based on an average. And I'm like, all right, let me check that out and see what they think. The consensus is people think this dude's going to fall. I'm here to tell you I don't think that's going to happen, but I would also tell you this. One of my discoveries when doing the top 15 at each position was walking away feeling that cornerback's pretty deep. Like cornerback, safety's got some depth. It's not the deepest, but it's got some dudes, right? You can buy into the mid rounds for sure. You could get a starter in the mid rounds. And in the back end, there's some swings I would take. But cornerback depth is legit this year, dude. The cornerback depth is strong. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what McWilliams falls because of. The dude is athletic as heck. Here's the other thing I would keep in mind before we go into the play style. He was a team captain at UAB before he transferred over to UCF and then was fantastic year 1. Plays in the nickel, short area burst. I think that having that team captain connected makes this make sense. Some people think there's flexibility to play at safety. I could understand that, right? There's physicality to his game. We're talking about needing a safety. We got one in Reed. Now you add a flexible defensive back, and it kind of just ties it all together. So, if I think Barron's in play at the top, I think that a player like this is always in play. Plus, I always look at special teams value at the end. Diggs is going to tackle. He's a smart player. He could have special teams value if he has the motor for it. And one of my favorite plays, I showed it before. It was Diggs on like a 3rd down and what was it, a 4th down and 1 or something, and he just like anticipated I think it was like a sneak or like an inside handoff or something. He blew it up like 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And it was like that kind of thing where it's like, all right, he may not be the most gifted player, but he just felt that and he just lit it up, blew up the play. That's the kind of thing that Diggs was capable of. And that's the kind of thing I'll take a swing on at the end. Guys with special teams value as well. And I think that's what the Lions will buy into as well, because it looks to be hard to make this team. So I think that actually lines up with the number of draft picks the Lions have. Where they're picking these guys, I have no idea. I just didn't want to focus on that too much because they're probably going to end up moving the board at some point. So it was just the players. We'll see how many we hit this year. I think it's possible I hit 0 because one thing's going to set this a spiral. I mean, if I have offensive linemen first and the Lions go a different position, it could throw this whole thing off. And say they go edge first round. It's like, all right, wait a minute. Are they going to go edge again? I have one in the 2nd round. So I would love, speaking of these kind of replacements potentially, just to quickly recap, I have Donovan Jackson first. I love Tyler Booker. I love Josh Simmons. I'd be cool with Calvin Banks as well. Josh Connerly should be in play. A lot of dudes there. It's a good time to get it. You wait, you're not going to get it. Edge. I would love Braden Swinson, man. If Lions could walk away with Braden Swinson, put him opposite instead of Josiah Stewart, I think that he might fit better. He's so physical. He's so powerful. I love Braden Swinson. That's a great replacement for me. It's the draft hat, dog. Come on, man. You know what I mean? Someone's got to say something. No one's going to say anything. That's crazy. We got the draft hat. Who'd I take? Jamaree Caldwell, a lot of interior defense linemen, a lot of interior defense. And anybody with flexibility on the D line could be in play here. Ty Robinson, who's got a lot of believers. I'm a little bit lower, but he's going to play well. It's just like, what's the ceiling with the guy, that kind of thing. Check out the rankings for that. And then we went Jaylen Reed, which I think is a good fit, but I'd like a couple safeties. I think it's a good spot to get a safety. Early day 3 is a great spot for a safety if you can make that happen. Billy Bowman could be in play who can cover. Jonas Sanker, who I'm a big fan of. Lions met with him. Love that. I love that player. So I think that's a great spot to go jump on that position group. And those guys, like you can find day 3 starters there. Kirby Joseph was round 3. I was there at that draft back in the 3rd round, Las Vegas. We wait. We get Kirby Joseph. We had that one predicted. The dude is amazing. He's one of our best players. So you can find those dudes. They'll identify that well. I don't have any concerns with that. They've done that really well. I like Sanker better. Yeah, Sanker's awesome. And Sanker fits. I think Sanker fits. He's so physical and he has a good feel. He plays really good balance and coverage. So I'd throw Sanker in that mix. Trying to think before we wrap this up, what I miss? Oh, Pat Bryant, Ty Felton. I would love Ty Felton as a Lion. I like Ty Felton more than Pat Bryant, but I like both those guys. A lot of guys. You know who I really like? Tez Johnson. Just to throw a name, I think Tez Johnson, as I've gotten closer to draft, the more of like, I get it. He's 150 pounds. 150 pounds. He didn't run fast. I like watching him play. He's a dog. Maybe he falls around 6 or 7. Because there's guys that ran horribly that are going to fall. Who was the dude that ran like a 4.8? Like it was Restrepo. Restrepo might go round 7. Like Restrepo might go round 7 running a 4.8, bro. Like that could happen. Tez is gonna fall a little bit, but if you get him at the end, I think I would bet on that guy making somebody's squad. I'd bet on that. Some of these dudes will go late day 3. He might make a squad. And then we went Diggs, which a lot of options there. And then we wrapped it with McWilliams, not McMillan, my bad. So yeah, that wraps it up. That's my predictive mock draft, man. If you're just joining, run it back. And if you want to see my rankings this morning, the audio is a little bit rocky at some parts. You may have to skip ahead a little bit, but the graphics are in there. So at least check out the graphics, offense, defense ranked. That's over on Dose Dion 2.0. That being said, I appreciate y'all joining, man. Draft is tomorrow, and we'll be back. Plan is for Friday for a recap of what we've seen so far. And, we'll stay locked over there on what's going down. So, that being said, we out of here, man. Have a great night and stay locked in for tomorrow because there's going to be content all over the place. We out. All right, Chad, we're going to hop out of here, man. Appreciate y'all joining. Yeah, we'll see. We're just kind of going to see what happens as we go through the day tomorrow, see kind of what happens when we get to the draft stuff. So I don't know, we'll kind of just see how it goes down. But today was crazy. Follow me on X, 0 Dose of Dion. Follow Roundtable Sports on X. We're dropping a lot of our interviews and stuff over there. So if you haven't seen those, follow that so you can see those. And then, I'll see what I can drop over here as we go through it. We are clear. Oh, wait a minute. Let me actually see if I can pull it up. Let me see if I'm logged in. Let's just look up X. It's what's happening. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Who do we meet, bro? We met a lot of players, bro. A lot of players. Tyler Booker was there. We talked to him. We talked to Cam Ward was there. Travis Hunter. There's a lot of dudes, bro. Most of the prospects that are here in the first round, we at least had somebody ask a question. So it was pretty nice. Mason Graham. All right, bro. But yeah, I got to get out of here, man. Appreciate y'all joining. Stay tuned for that. We out.